Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our WWE show for the week. Let's go right into it. First off, we have the Authority, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H coming out, showing some public displays of affection, talking about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. They get interrupted by Big Show, who's on the Titantron. Apparently he's hijacked the feed, talks trash about the two. Stephanie cuts him off, brings Bryan out, who's dancing around the ring saying yes, yes, yes. First segment ends with that going to commercial, leading up to our first match of the night, which is Bryan versus Dean Ambrose coming from break. This is usually the best match of the night, is usually slotted into this segment, and this one did not disappoint. I thought it was a really good match. I'd really like to see these two go at it with more on the line, like a SummerSlam main event, Survivor Series main event, Royal Rumble main event. You get the drift here. I think both these guys are absolutely top of the game. Dean Ambrose could be one of the biggest heels in wrestling. Bryan's already one of the biggest faces in wrestling. Bryan picks up the win with a surprise into the yes/no lock, the yes lock as they're calling it now. Good way to put him over as a solid threat going into the pay-per-view, seeing as this is the go-home show for the pay-per-view. Next up we have CM Punk, who comes out, cuts a promo. The promo was good. If it was anyone else other than CM Punk, it would be excellent. I feel that the CM Punk Paul Heyman issue has gone to the point where they have nothing to speak about with each other that they've already not said. And it kind of hurts these promos a bit. Wasn't bad. Did it sell the pay-per-view to me? No. Did I want to turn off the television? No. But I've seen CM Punk do much better. Not many other wrestlers on the roster could even have done this good. So it's kind of like saying, this is Jimi Hendrix's worst riff, if you know what I mean. Like, you're such a good guitarist that even your worst riff is probably better than 90% of the other guitarists out there. Now, coming off of that, something that, speaking of guitars and speaking of bad, this may be the worst segment in Monday Night Raw since Hornswoggle was announced as the anonymous general manager. Oddly enough, involves Hornswoggle. Santino, Hornswoggle, and Khali come out with Elvis get-up. Santino fully decked out in Elvis gear to wrestle against Heath Slater. This is the kind of thing that if you're watching wrestling with a friend that doesn't like wrestling, a girlfriend, a wife, boyfriend, whatever it may be, family member, this is the kind of thing that they look at you and they kind of go, that's wrestling. That's what you like. And it's a total embarrassment to professional wrestling. The jokes were corny. It's a one-trick shot. If he would have took the gear off when he got to the ring, it might have been okay. The fact that he kept doing the Elvis mannerisms, the fact that they let it go on for as long as they did, it just embarrassed me, and I thought it was just terrible. The crowd reaction, which there was absolutely zero, should tell the WWE that crap like this doesn't really fly. It's not what we want to see. Comedy, when it's organic, we do want to see. Comedy, when it's forced and honestly past its expiration date, we don't. Just think about this. I'm 36 years old. Elvis died when I was 4 months old. Now, that should tell you that Elvis hasn't, everybody knows who he is, even kids growing up now. But he's so far out of pop culture now that guys my age and younger don't care about Elvis. I'm sorry. He was a good singer, great. Some of his movies, I guess, were okay. But he doesn't resonate with me. If you wanted to do a Michael Jackson thing, that would resonate with people. Michael Jackson just passed 3 years ago. He was still relevant. He's still somewhat relevant. I'm not saying that Elvis isn't relevant, that, he's not have a big fan base. I just think it's an old joke. It's something that need to just let go. Spent way more time on that than I wanted to. Santino won the match, which leads us into our next match. Dolph Ziggler versus Randy Orton. Decent match. I couldn't get properly motivated to watch this coming off of the crap that I just seen. If they didn't have the crap before, it probably would have been a much better match. Randy Orton is absolutely excelling in his heel role, and Dolph Ziggler, I think, when given the opportunity to wrestle top flight talent like this, looks really good. I just couldn't get into this match, and I do apologize. But I feel that that's what most people had. Most people were so frustrated and aggravated by the match before that this match was hard to get into. Now, here's something that's not hard to get into. Our question of the week from last week, talking about Fandango. He's at a crossroads. He could go one of two ways. The question was, is he going to end up being more like Santino or more like Goldust? Now, we have some answers from our friends. First is from our friend Sonic Rules 94. Fandango needs a real feud and something to do for him to go the Goldust route. 3-minute matches with Santino is going to keep him in mid-card hell. Next is from our friend Handsome Pat Fannin. Fandango has all the ability to develop his gimmick into something substantial. He constantly adds nuances to his movements and promos. He will only be held back by the machine. I agree with what Pat says. Johnny Curtis, before he was Fandango and now Fandango, is a terrific wrestler who's been saddled with a bad gimmick. I think he has all the earmarkings to go the Goldust route and be that guy for this generation that, although it looks on paper like it should be a goofy gimmick, he's someone that you could take, and bank on, because he can be a multiple-time Intercontinental Champion, World Champion. The guy, I think he has that it factor. The only problem I think that he has is he going to be pigeonholed? Which he has the talent not to be, but we'll see. Only time will tell. I think he's more going to go the Goldust route, honestly. His talent there's so much talent there that I don't see it going any other way. Now, coming off of that, we've seen a resurgence in the tag team division. Several top flight tag teams, the Usos and Real Americans, the Shield, the Rhodes brothers, many. There's more emphasis and more tag teams and more great tag matches since they've revamped the tag division and brought it back to prominence. Do you think they could do the same thing with the Divas? Is there no shot? Are the Divas, is the division too far gone? Could they bring it back and revamp it like they have with the tag division? Or do you not care either way? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on our Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, put it down where? Down there in the comments. Now, funnily, our next match, I don't even know if that's a word, is a tag team and Divas match. AJ and Tamina versus the Bellas. Decent match. Brie Bella has gotten better. Nikki is the weak link of the team. AJ and Tamina are both solid. The Bella twins pick up the win, leading to Brie Bella getting the match with AJ at the pay-per-view, which I kind of thought they were going to go this route at the pay-per-view because we just seen Brie Bella and AJ at the last one. But this match was basically what it's there for. It was filler on television. Wasn't bad, it was passable. Now, coming off of that, something I really enjoyed, the Wyatt family, Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, versus Miz and Kofi Kingston. Now, as we've seen in the past few weeks, the Wyatts have gone after the Miz. He seems to be their target since Kane's been gone now. And I enjoyed this match thoroughly. I liked the fact that Kofi gets distracted and Luke Harper hits him with a discus clothesline. It was amazing. Luke Harper, to me, is going to be the breakout star of this group. Bray Wyatt's great, don't get me wrong. He does the great promos. He's good in the ring. He's got the psychology down. But once we really get to see what Luke Harper can do, I think he's going to be the guy that breaks out. he could easily be this generation's Bruiser Brody, and I'm not just saying that because of the look. Go back and watch some of his stuff before WWE when he was Brody Lee. The guy is a great talent. He's one of the great big men working in the business right now. Eric Rowan's no slouch either, but I just see Luke Harper, and you're starting to see more and more of that in the matches, how good Luke Harper really is. And this was no exception. It leads to, after the match, they get The Miz tied up. We get a whole spiel from Bray Wyatt about heaven and hell and taking him to the gates. Should be interesting. I like where this is going with this. Again, I've said it before and I say it again, associating Bray Wyatt with a former world champion only could do good for Bray's career. I like where they're doing. I like how they're building this. I like where Miz, who's a character I'm not a fan of, I like him in this role. So kudos to the WWE for finding a place for him that's enjoyable. Speaking of something that's rather enjoyable, our next match started off with Curtis Axel versus Big E Langston, only to have Ryback attack before the match, giving him uneven odds. Big E fights him off for a pretty decent amount of time. CM Punk runs down, makes a save. Of course, we get Vicky Guerrero turn it into a tag team match. Playa. But faces get over big. Big E Langston is the focal point of the show. I like him being the feud for the Heyman family coming off of CM Punk. I like that they're sowing the seeds for that already. I think Big E Langston can be a huge star in the wrestling business. I enjoy his involvement. This is the right way to get him in. You get him with CM Punk, somebody that's already over as a face. You get him going up against heels that are already over as heels. The only thing I would like to see, it's just a little pet peeve. The big ending, nobody really likes it. I've not heard one positive comment about the big ending, and if you have one, feel free to put it in our comments. But most people that I've heard don't like his finisher. I did enjoy, not this week, but the week before, he did a very vicious belly-to-belly suplex. While a simple move that most people do, I think it could easily be his finisher, coming with the strength that he has and the impact he had doing it. Something to chew on. I think if he implied that as his finisher, I would enjoy that much more than the big ending. Plus, it brings us back to a guy like Magnum TA, who used that as his finisher. Always good to tie the history of wrestling with the present of wrestling. Speaking of the history and the present, we had Dirty Dutch Mantel, a.k.a. Zeb Coulter, and his tag team, the Real Americans, going up against Tons of Funk. As much as I like the Real Americans, and I'm not a hater of Tons of Funk either, I think they serve their purpose, they're good for the show. I'm already tired of this matchup. The Real Americans are in a different feud with Los Matadors. The only reason they keep putting this on is to give us Cesaro's swing, which this week he hits on Brodus Clay. I think that they're going to make that into a one-trick pony, and I really don't want him to, because the guy is so super talented. That's not all he is just a guy that can swing giant men. He can do amazing matches. Now, granted, it is one of the most over moves in wrestling, but we're not talking about him being Scotty 2 Hotty, and all we need to see is a worm. I want to see much more out of him, and I think he can offer much more. And I hope and pray that once they get over this a little bit, that we get to see more and more of what Cesaro could do. Look out for the UFO. When it comes on, that show's going to get tremendous ratings on our end, at least. And if for those of you that know what it is, kudos to you for following his career before this. But if you don't, look up Claudio Castagnoli, UFO, just like it sounds, and watch in amazement the awesomeness of that move. Americans pick up the win, leads us in to our second in a row, actually fourth 4 matches in a row, tag matches, 1 not scheduled that turned into a tag match, and 3 scheduled. So the show ended with 4 tag matches. Like I said, tag division stepping up here. We had the Shield versus the Usos for the #1 contenders for the Rhodes family's tag team title. I like that they haven't forgot that the Usos were the #1 contenders. They had a legitimate claim to being that. The Shield also has a legitimate claim to being #1 contenders, being that they are the former champions. Common sense in booking always works. Coherent storylines going forward, tying together loose ends, always works with the fans. It always resonates. The fans aren't dumb. We remember what happened 3 weeks ago, a month ago, 2 months ago. Now, if you ask me what happened on the first Monday Night Raw of the year, I might not remember that. But if you ask me what a certain character was doing around that time, I will. And that's the point I'm trying to get at here. Usually they forget or ignore stuff like this. This time they tied it in. I thought it made it special. We got the obvious thing that I thought was smacking everybody in the face. Eventually the Rhodes brothers get involved, setting up a 3-way match for Hell in a Cell, which has the potential to steal a show. 3 amazing tag teams. Again, with some other really good tag teams biting at their heels. The division's as hot as it's been since the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, and the Hardys ruled it back in the day. I think I really enjoy what they're doing with this, and I enjoy the tag team division, and I really think it has its purpose. I mean, it's an exciting thing. Tag team wrestling, when done right, is exciting. It's like the X division. It's like a cruiserweight division. Gives you something different than heavyweights prodding around and bashing against each other. Speaking of bashing, we had the contract signing between Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. Of course, the Authority, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are out there. Shawn Michaels, the guest referee. Triple H had some things that haven't gone over so well, supposedly with Boys in the Back and also with the fans. He said that Daniel Bryan will never be the guy, much like Edge, Rob Van Dam, or Chris Jericho were never the guy. A lot of people got up in arms with that. I take it for what it is. It's Triple H being the Triple H character, being the asshole character. I do assume that Rob Van Dam and Chris Jericho will be back in the WWE within the next 6 months. They both seem to be on that semi-contract where they come and go as they please. Edge, he's the wild card. He has other things that he's doing. So I don't know why he was maybe thrown in there, other than maybe they do plan on bringing him in at some point. And that's what I'm getting at. I think it was all said very calculated why he said the names he did, because they are people that might come back and go up against the Authority. But we've seen your normal activities here. The only thing I didn't like is Triple H took over so much of the interview, and Randy Orton even tried to steer it at one point to bring it back to him and Daniel Bryan. Triple H overpowered it. Shawn Michaels even took up a lot more of the spotlight than the 2 guys that are actually going to be in the main event. It all leads to Big Show coming in an 18-wheeler, distracting them, only for Randy Orton to turn around and get the flying knee to the face, which the first time around we don't get a good camera view on. We barely see it happen. We have to wait for replay to actually see it. Bryan leaves with the Big Show, obviously. It is what it is. Being a wrestling fan, we have to live with these. Some contract signings are good, some are bad, some are this, which I don't think any storyline got pushed forward. I think a lot of dead air time happened. Something I mentioned on Twitter, I would like to know the percentage of Monday Night Raws that have ended with a contract signing. I'd be willing to bet it's somewhere above 10% of all the Monday Night Raws. which is a really high figure when you really think about it. But to me, it's one of those things that's been done to death, and I don't really have the interest because we all know when it's coming, and I like wrestling. To me, professional wrestling's at its best when it's unpredictable. Something that's not unpredictable is our ratings. Our ratings, you've seen, we're going to go right into it. If you've seen the show before, we have a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. 1's a great colleague, 2's a Heath Slater, 3's a Randy Orton, 4's a CM Punk, 5's a Daniel Bryan. You know, honestly, I'm on the fence on this one. I want to give it a 2, a Heath Slater. It was a very middle of the road show. Some things I really liked, like I said, the Wyatt family, Kofi and Miz match I enjoyed. The 4 tag team matches were enjoyable. Tons of fun versus the Real Americans. It's been done to death already. Santino and Heath Slater, just, I think that itself took the rating down a full point. CM Punk promo was good, not great. Bryan versus Dean Ambrose was good, really good. The contract signing thing, again, I'm just bored with that. And if I'm bored with that, that means other people are bored with it. Or at least I'd like to think that. I don't think that I'm so crazy that my opinion's everybody's opinion. But I think that my opinion is probably shared by a lot of people. At least in reference to that. Other things, probably not. But as far as the fact that people don't want to see these contract signings anymore, I think that that's probably a vocal majority of the people I've seen on Twitter talking about this are tired of them too. So, plus the fact that we just had TNA do it 5 days earlier. I mean, it is what it is. It's something I guess we have to live with. But in my opinion, it makes it a 2 show, makes it a Heath Slater. The interest level really wasn't given there for the pay-per-view. Something they should be hyping all the way through. Something I should be excited. I should be chomping at the bit, dying to see Sunday's pay-per-view. And right now I'm kind of meh. But basically that's all I have to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.